Hey friends, welcome to today's video. The topic for today's video is those blind buys that did not work out for me this past year. So it's December and I'm doing a series of videos that help me sort of reflect back on my fragrance experiences over the past year. Today's video is focused on what I would call fails, blind buy fails. And then I have a video coming up that's going to focus on my best blind buy wins. The challenge with both of these videos is to reduce the number of fragrances that I talk about in both to 10. So I have 10. I've done that have been sort of my worst experience with blind buys. They were either outright fails or they hurt my feelings in some way or something went really wrong with the blind buy experience. And these fragrances are, I think with one exception, all in a new home at this point. So why don't we get right to it? But before we do, I'd like for you to drop in the comments if you have purchased a fragrance this year without sniffing it, which is what blind buy means. Did you have any that just did not work out for you, like a flat out fail or something that was just a heck no for some reason or another? Let us know in the comments and let us know your thoughts about that fragrance. I'd love to go in the order that I purchased the fragrances, but the fact of the matter is that I am not completely sure on the timeline, so I'm going to do my best with these. I'm going to start off with one from Nest called Golden Nectar. I love the Nest bottle designs. I think they're really pretty, and I have had mixed experiences with Nest fragrances, some that have worked out really nicely and some maybe not so much. This particular fragrance I was expecting to be this ambery, floral, slightly powdery, beautiful fragrance. And it was just a big fat no from the start. I tried it several times and just couldn't get it to really mesh for me or work for me. I would describe this fragrance as dried out Play-Doh. Play-Doh. Now, I like a good Play-Doh scent. I love when you first peel open a bottle of Play-Doh and it smells really fresh and powdery and clean. So when you leave Play-Doh out for a while, you've played with it, you've manipulated it, you've twisted it, turned it, and created things out of it. And if you've left it out in the open, after a while, it dries out and then it has a dried Play-Doh, almost like a very stale smell to it. That is what I got from this fragrance, like a stale Play-Doh artificial smell that just kind of bothered me. It didn't mesh well with me. And this was a very, very sad no. And I actually returned this to Sephora. There are 2 more fragrances on the list that I returned to Sephora. I very rarely, if ever, actually return a fragrance that doesn't work out, because I usually don't have any problems selling it to someone or even passing it along to a friend or family member who enjoys it, even though I don't. So there's no sort of love lost there. But for me to have to actually take this back to Sephora, and the Sephora that I can take it back to is a good 30-minute drive from my house. So you know that the fragrance is a serious offender in one way or the other if I decide to make that drive all the way out to the flagship Sephora. It doesn't hurt that I also love makeup and just enjoy getting to that Sephora and walking around and seeing what the new products are. But this was fail number 1 for me this year. And then I'll talk next about 2 fragrances that I think I purchased one around the Christmas season into 2022, and the other was gifted to me at Christmas, and I tried it out in the new year. So the first one is Tresor from Lancome. I love most of my Lancome fragrances. I haven't had problems with them. This one in particular, I remember when the fragrance first came out, I thought that it smelled pretty, but it was at that point in my life a little cloying for me, a little mature for me. I was wearing more light, citrusy, happy, sort of, and then some sweet fragrances at that time too. And Tresor just seemed really mature. So, but I liked it. I thought it was pretty, just not for me. It wasn't my vibe at that time. So I repurchased it at the top of the year thinking that, you know, I'm in a different stage in my life. I'm closer to 50 than to the youthful age at which this first was released, and thought I might give it a second try and see, now that I appreciate more mature fragrances in a different way, would I like this fragrance? And the answer is a big fat no. There may be 2 reasons for that. One is this is a fragrance that has been reformulated, so it's different than what I remember, but then at the same time, it has prominently a peach note. I don't always get along with peach notes in some fragrances, depending on what else accompanies it. For example, if there's a beautiful musk in the fragrance, I can usually tolerate the peach and come to like it. However, in this fragrance, whatever was happening with the peach just wasn't working for me. And there seemed to be some other notes that were just not agreeable. I don't know how to describe it except to say that the fragrance did not feel natural smelling to me. Nothing in perfumes is natural. Even if it says natural ingredients, y'all, there are chemicals in some form or another. Like, anyway, that's a whole nother chemistry conversation. But this Tresor smelled particularly not natural to me in a way that just kind of bothered me. I couldn't get with it. So that went off to a new home. And also at the top of the year category, and it was gifted to me by a family member, is Gucci Rush in the red square bottle. A lot of reviewers talked about this being a club fragrance, their pretty girl fragrance where they wore it and all the boys were chasing them. And I thought, surely I will get along with this fragrance. No, I tried this out and smelled nothing but a really harsh plastic. I'm talking about like a plastic that had just come off of the assembly line and still had like the fumes from the chemical processing still sort of rising off of the skin of the fragrance, if that makes sense to you. And it was just really bizarre. It was like I wanted to rename the fragrance Radiohead or something because of the way the packaging looked boxy and it was red and it reminded me of everything like late 80s, early 90s. Like I could put a leg warmer on this bad boy and it would fit right in. So I don't know, something about the look of the fragrance. I wanted to love it because it's a nice, simple square bottle, but it's weird looking. The atomizer on it is weird. And the fragrance was just very, very plastic to me is all I can describe it as. A really strong, like freshly cooled down plastic where the vapors from the chemicals that molded into the plastic were still rising off of the piece of plastic itself. So this was a no. I just can't deal with this one. I'll go next to a fragrance that really deserves its own category because it's beautiful in its own right. I can see how people love this fragrance, but it was just too much for me. It wore me the one time that I put it on and the few times that I sampled it after that because I wanted to keep trying this. It got really rave reviews and people just love it and adore it. It's called Malia from Nobile 1942. The bottle is gorgeous on this. I love the white of the bottle and was hoping that it smelled like that, like something white, citrusy, musky. I don't know where I got that from because that's not really in the note structure. This is a heavily like concentrated fruit smell and there's a spice in there that really bothered me. The way that it is in this fragrance was super cloying and bothersome and like invasive to me. It was like the close talker. Have you ever been to a social event or a party and you have that person that's like right up in your face and you keep slowly backing away and they keep walking towards you and wanting to talk closer and closer to your face? And it's just too much. It's loud. It's a little bit obnoxious. There's nothing wrong with the person. They're perfectly nice. But that thing that they're doing is just like intrusive. This is an intrusive fragrance in a way that I couldn't tolerate it over the long run. I ended up purchasing this at, I think it was close to full price, if not just a little discount off. I don't quite remember. But I remember it was either 200 or right above. And I was like, are you kidding me? What did I do? It was just a big mistake. It did not work out. And I was glad to pass that along to a new home. I can see the beauty in it. I can see why people like this fragrance. But for me, it was a no-go. It just, that fruity, acrid thing that it had going on just was not gonna vibe with me and who I am as a fragrance wearer. So that one went bye-bye to a new home. Go next to an iconic fragrance that a lot of people love and call their signature scent. So I just knew that as a floral lover, I would love this fragrance. And I did not. It's called Jardins The Bagatelle from Guerlain in the B bottle. So this is supposed to be a super duper fantastic white floral smell, like a white floral bomb. So I was thinking something along the lines of Accento by Xerjoff, like Accento Overdose, that whole like world of really strong floral fragrances with hints of green maybe. But Jardins de Bagatelle was overly concentrated florals. And I'm talking about, if you think of like funeral homes settings. If you think of weddings where the floral bouquets have been sitting around weeks longer than they ever should, and they're past the point of pleasant decay. Like florals can smell nice as they overly bloom, like they're on the back end of their bloom and they're starting to decay. They can sort of have a really pleasant, slightly indolic smell that some people are attracted to. Well, magnify that and fast forward, accelerate the clock another couple of weeks. And these flowers have wilted, yet they're still throwing off a really pungent, strong smell. And maybe there was a whole like gang of cats in the same room that decided to use it as their potty. So you get that urine smell and that super, super strong, concentrated, like decaying floral smell. I couldn't tolerate it. It was too much for me. I really tried, and some people just love this. And I got a little bit of pushback in the comments from people who just really enjoy this. So if you're that person that loves this fragrance, I'm happy for you. But man, this just did not work out for me. So, and I was kind of sad. It came with as a tester without a top. So that also, and I knew that buying it. So that's my own fault. I knew that purchasing it, but it bothered me that it didn't have a cap. I'll go next to another floral fragrance while we're talking about floral fragrances that people love. And this is Montel Gold Flowers. The reviews on this, and I'm not just talking about online YouTube reviews, I'm talking about the Fragrantica and like website reviews. Oh, this is beautiful. It's my signature fragrance. It's the best floral smell ever. I can't get enough. I want to back up. Surely I knew that I would love it, but alas, I did not. Did not. This is one of those fragrances, as soon as I sprayed it on, like the minute that I depressed that atomizer and something came spewing out of the other end, it was really clear to me that I was never going to be friends with this fragrance. And I did try. Like I wore this and I sprayed it again a few days and I sprayed it again a few days after that. So because I do believe in trying something 2 or 3 or 4 times to really get a sense of it before you give up on it. Like the first spray doesn't always tell the whole story, and you need to try it and let it dry down and all of that, and maybe try it at a different time of day or in different humidity or temperature conditions. But no matter what I did with this, it was just a no. This smelled like if Jardins The Bagatelle was a bouquet of decaying, pissy flowers. This one was a bouquet of freshly made plastic flowers. It was as if the entire bouquet just came off of a fake assembly line. And that plastic smell, similar to like the Gucci Rush artificial plasticiness, it was almost like if the if the scent was a type of technology. I know that sounds weird, but just there was something really sort of electronic about the plasticiness in this scent. Really difficult to describe. I don't know how else to frame that up. But yeah, this was a big no immediately. However, it has gone to a happy new home. The owner reported back that they really enjoyed it and were glad to have it. So I am happy for that person and hope that they continue to enjoy Montel Gold Flowers. It was not for me. Go to an indie house called Solstice Scents, and I have a bunch of other samples and some like 5 milliliter fragrances from them that I really enjoy. This next one is purely my fault because I chose the wrong one. I thought I was getting a more feminine version and just wasn't careful about what I added to cart and ended up purchasing a full bottle of Corbins Smoked Apple. Now, there are masculine fragrances. So you have feminine fragrances, you have unisex, and you have masculine fragrances, and everything along the spectrum. I can typically wear a wide range of fragrances with no problem. However, Corbin's Smoked Apple was way, way on that end of masculine, like the very, very extreme edge of it. I made the dumb mistake of overspraying myself dramatically one night when I wanted to try this out. I was going to bed. I was hoping for a peaceful night's sleep and ruined my sleep because I totally oversprayed myself with this fragrance. Now, it's super duper masculine. What does this smell like? It smells smoky, very smoky, hints of incense. It smells like mature baked apples all mixed together and some woodiness in there. So it's super strong. It's a very, very potent fragrance. I sprayed myself down like a maniac, like with no abandon. With abandon? With gay abandon. Whatever the damn expression is. I sprayed myself a lot. And then I went to bed and I nearly choked myself out. I woke up like every hour on the hour going, oh my God, when is this smell going to die down? Because I cannot stand it. It took too long. I woke up smelling like smoke and incense and smoked apples and things like that. And it's just too much. On a man, sprayed lightly, lovely. Like I would totally say, grab it if that profile sounds appealing to you. And if you want a very masculine fragrance, and spray it like twice and you're good to go. It does have a lot of beauty. It's a strong fragrance, but oh my God, the number that I did on myself over spraying this thing was shameful. It was absolutely shameful. So that one has gone off to a new home as well. And I'm so delighted that it is getting love in another house, because I do think it is a really cool fragrance, just absolutely not for me. Next is a fragrance that I just knew. I was convinced that it was going to smell fantastic. In fact, I was a little irritated with myself that I had waited so long to purchase it, because it was heavily hyped up and I just knew it was going to be amazing. So we're talking about Whiff of a Waffle Cone from Imaginary Authors. This fragrance, I think, ran me in the neighborhood of, I want to say about $65-ish. This is a 1.7 ounce fragrance, and it tells you the notes on the back. And so what was I expecting? Whiff of a waffle cone. A waffle cone smells vanillic. It smells a little like caramel. It smells like a sugared donut. It smells like a beignet. It smells a little bit like fried dough and everything in between, all mashed together, sprinkled with additional sugar on top. So I was expecting something sweet and gourmand. Instead, and let me just say this, because I know that sometimes independent perfumers will make a batch of a fragrance that maybe needs to macerate for a while. It needs to sit, it needs to mature. I did let this sit. I've had this maybe 4 or 5, even 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember exactly when I purchased this, but it's been a bit and it has not improved. In fact, it has actually gotten worse. When I sprayed this today in anticipation of this video, knowing I have given this my last shot, because I've worn this several times now just to be sure I wasn't imagining things and that I was judging it properly. And when I sprayed it today, what I got, well, see, now from the nozzle, of course, it smells fantastic and it's making a fool of me. But when I sprayed it earlier, it smelled like gasoline. And y'all, I'm talking about fresh out of the nozzle when you go to pump your gas, that very sort of clean, I use clean loosely here, but a clean gasoline smell, like that airy gasoline in, gaseous. It's gaseous. It's in the air kind of a thing. And I just think it's going to end up being a no for me. This one will probably go up on my Mercari account. I can't get this to do what it's supposed to do. I can't get the waffle cone to waffle cone. And I love a good waffle cone, don't we all? I even like this bottle. So I think I'm going to have to say no to Whiff of a Waffle Cone and put this in the worst blind buys of the year, because of the difference, the delta, in what I was expecting versus what I actually got from this. I have 2 more, and I'll talk next about Vetiver Eleme from 7 Virtues. So this is another one that went back to Sephora with a swiftness. I tried this one time. I can't say that I gave this the 3 and 4 day test. I did not. So this is a fragrance that I was expecting to smell very grassy, earthy, and lovely. And this is my own fault, because I have a difficult time with vetiver. It is not a friendly note to me. I should have known better. But instead, I went ahead and got this because the reviews talked about what an amazing, unique fragrance this was. It was everything people wished other fragrances would be and just could never find. And for me, I do have trouble with the note of vetiver. Sometimes it works and sometimes it smells like dry hay. Well, hay is dry by nature, but it creates like a dryness in the back of my throat that is difficult for me to tolerate. And then this one smelled a little bit like concentrated urine, which, I'm just not a fan of, like that New York City subway smell. So I had to pass on this. And I love New York and I love the subways. I grew up there, but I don't want to smell like the subway. I had to take this back to Sephora. And then the last fragrance that I ended up taking back to Sephora, returning, is called Dead Cool Milk. So, boy, have I had my experience with milk fragrances this year. I've had this one, Dead Cool Milk, which is a total failure, and I'll explain why in a minute. I had Vanilla Milk from Ellis Brooklyn, which is actually growing on me, and I'm liking it. I had Commodity Milk, and I have the expressive and the bold version, both of which are friggin' fantastic. And then I have Coconut Milk Chai from Organic Perfume. Perfume girl, which has turned into a favorite quickly. But this Dead Cool Milk was a hot mess for me. This is one of those molecular fragrances like eccentric molecules where you either smell it or you just kind of don't. And apparently, I'm one of those people that's in the just kind of doesn't smell it category. Had the same experience with Le Labo 13, which I was expecting to love based on reviews. Sprayed that on and barely had any smell on it at all. Same thing with this Dead Cool fragrance. It was a really, for me, super light, like barely detectable floral musk that was like impossible because I'm like, it was oily, very oily on the skin. So I'm like, you're going to be oily and potentially mess up my clothes and make me work you into the skin, and you're not going to give me a lot of scent. I'm not that one. So I had to put this back in its box and march it back up to Sephora with a swiftness. And then I thought that the packaging, I was willing to tolerate the packaging if the fragrance was really good, but you're going to have kitschy packaging like this, trying to be like cutesy and modern. And yeah, it just didn't work out because you're also a fragrance that I can barely smell. And I wasn't alone. No one in this house could really smell it very well. And so I know I'm not crazy. So you all, those are the 10 main picks of fragrances that didn't work out this year. There are others that I could probably spend some time chatting with you about, but I'd love to hear from you. What is a fragrance that just didn't work out for you that you had to either sell, take back, or pass along to someone? Or maybe it's in the back of your shelf right now wondering, what are you going to do with it? So let me know, and please stay tuned for the upcoming fragrance videos here. I have the top buys of the year, as well as my top 10 for life. And then I'm going to do a December fragrance awards video. And I'm interested to know what you like to see the year in review through those fragrance award categories. Let me know, and I'll think about filming something like that to post in early January. Hope you all have a fabulous day. Thanks so much for taking some time to hang out with me today. Take care, my friends.